Welcome to this webinar on this call Start4Water for this program Start4Water, and more specifically, we'll talk a little about the entire program Start4Water, but we'll focus on the residency proposed by Camargo, by the Fondation Camargo in La Ciotat, and really focus on the context of La Ciotat, the partners we are working with, problematic we are questioning with this residency, and what is Camargo, what is this specific area. My name is Julie Chenot, and I'm the director of Camargo.
And I'm Zoe Levoyer. I am the programs coordinator at the Camargo Foundation. We are going to start. I'm going to start sharing my screen. You're all muted. Your lines are muted. So if you have questions, you can write them in the chat, and they will be addressed at the end of the presentation.
Good. So this is just a webinar that is really focusing on one specific residency, which is a residency that is part of a more international European-wide program as part of Start4Water, which is a program for the DG Connect. And Zoe will tell you more about this program, but we want also to tell you more also about Camargo and this area. But before we dive into that, maybe if we can tell you more about the program of today and how it works.
So we have 1 hour together today. We're going to tell you, we're going to give you some information about the foundation history, also about the foundation's activities, its programs, and its facilities. And then we're going to introduce Camargo Starts4Water residency with the local challenge that we have for this residency at Camargo, the partners that we have locally and regionally, and the expectations that we have towards the artists in residency for this program.
So just and question, of course, but just a few words about this location. This Camargo Foundation was set up by Jerome Hill. He was an American artist from the Twin Cities, and he was someone involved in music, composition, in film, more experimental film, in visual art. And he really developed this and conceived this campus as a place for him to be with other artists from other disciplines, being from the US or from Europe, and to be able to spend time, exchange, discuss, experiment, and present. And we have on site an open air theater an amphitheater of 400 seats. And it's really in the spirit and based on what he developed about crossing exchange of disciplines and experimentation and taking time that we are still working and conceiving the programs of Camargo. Yeah, you can switch. The Camargo is located in south of France. So just to let you know where it is, for those of you who don't know, it's on the Mediterranean coast, is really just not far from Marseille. If we look at the area, we are located in the national park. So this area, and now you have one picture, not from the sea, but from the land of the national park. This landscape, which is quite stunning when you see from the sea landscape, since 10 years, it became a national park. It's a national park, which is partly the land, but mainly 2/3 of it is the sea. And it is the only national park in Europe that is in an urban area. It's an area of 2 million inhabitants. So part of this area, so it's not only, of course, not like more places that are part of the national park, but inside the national park you have, or around this national park, you have also major cities like, of course, Marseille, which is super, super dynamic regards to art. On the bottom left, you can see a picture of Friche La Belle de Mai, which is a former tobacco factory transformed into a huge art complex with a lot of disciplines and also a lot of place where there are exhibition space, theaters. On the top, on the left, you have the museum, which is a museum about civilization from Europe and the Mediterranean. You have also on the right, Arles, which is something like an hour and a half away from here. On the bottom right, you have Aix-en-Provence, which is another very different city. So we, Camargo, are facing the sea, but we are in within an hour to an hour and a half. And there are major cities where there are a huge, very vibrant art and cultural life. If we now focus on the campus of Camargo, and so the campus is the former property and estate of Jerome Hill that, as I was saying, he totally conceived in a very humble way with natural elements like using stone bricks, working a lot on the gardens, on the vegetation. Everything is quite simple, using natural local art techniques. And it's really a way to leave space for the bigger landscape. And on site, we have 12 apartments, all are fully furnished, so with independent, with kitchen, and each have their own kitchen and bathroom. Some of them have one bedroom, some of them have multiple bedrooms, either for having families on site or for like kids. Or for having small collective on site. We have also a lot of outside. The gardens are super important in the daily life. We are in south of France, the weather is good, so we can spend a lot of time throughout the year outside. And so each apartment has, in a way, a garden or a terrace or a space outside.
There are shared spaces at Camargo. Some of them are outdoors and some of them are inside the foundation. There are gardens and seafront terraces that can be used by any resident. It's good to keep in mind that during the 9 months Starts4Water residency, the artists in residency will be at Camargo at the same time as other artists, so scholars and thinkers. So they will be living in a community of residents at Camargo, so they will be very likely meet other residents in these spaces, and that's also these exchanges that can be really stimulating in the framework of this residency being at Camargo for the Starts4Water residency. But there are also individual and shared working spaces that are located inside the buildings.
So on the left, the picture on the left is a picture of the library, which is only for residents of Camargo, where there are different desks and a collection of 6,000 books. Then if we go to the next slide, there we have different spaces for specific disciplines. But just to let you know, Camargo is more a research-focused residency than a production residency. So we'll have a place, a visual artist studio with a place for like a small place for photo. We have also a composer house and a technical cabin that can be used for multiple purposes. Being like, yeah, as you see here on that slide, for screening films or images of photos, but also for just working on sound, on recordings, or having just a quiet space with a view on the sea with just a desk to write or work on as a visual artist.
As Julie was mentioning, all of the residencies and the different programs that we're running at Camargo are research-based residencies. So these individual working spaces have light technical equipment. So we have some equipment, but it's quite light. So for instance, in the technical cabin, there's a desk, but there can also be light musical or sound worked equipment, such as a mixing table, speakers, and one mic. And then I'm moving to the living room of the battery.
So Camargo is really very much a place where it's still very much human size. We are between 10 to 20 people on site, and there is one place that is this place, the battery living room, and it's a place where we usually, when we have gathering, more or less once a week, we have a formal or informal gathering with a resident on site, and where we organize resident session. It can be like just a session of 1 or 2 hours curated by one of the residents, and from time to time we also organize programs that are more public program, open to the public, and it's really a way. We never present finished work, but we present more the process, the research, or the creative process and the questions. So it's usually work in progress with talks and some extracts can be presented, but that's all. The capacity of this room, which is more like a salon, is 50 to 60 people max.
And now we're going to move to a more formal introduction to the Starts4Water residency at Camargo.
So this is the view, one of the view you have from Camargo. Really, it's just below Camargo, this rock. It's very naturally, at least when I arrived 10 years ago, it was just when the national park was set up. It was set up in 2012, and I arrived in 2014 to relaunch the program. And the idea was to really think about the program from the side, from here. Of course, taking into account the history we mentioned about Jerome Hill and the experimentation and crossing disciplines, but also taking into account what is around us. And what is around us is the national park, is also, of course, facing the Mediterranean. So from then working with people from the national park and different residents, I would say the resident also some of them started to work on the question related to the sea and to the Mediterranean Sea and to the underwater landscape and different subjects there. And this is something we are working more and more on. And so 2 years ago, we were approached by some people, some organizations that were already in the coalition from Starts4Water #1. So a couple of years ago, there was already a group, a consortium working on the first round of residencies as part of Starts4Water. And so we were approached to join this Starts4Water II, which is really focusing on the water and the sea and the harbor and the changes in the harbors. So that's really what we were approached to really decide on which place we want to work on, and we thought Ciotat was a very interesting project, and Zoe is going to tell you more about the context of Ciotat and why we decided that we would like to work on Ciotat context, which is their neighborhood just next door to Cassis. But to come back, what we will offer, it's 9 months long residency, and which is really to address local challenges related to water management and in close collaboration with local and regional stakeholders. The specific title we looked at is really the seeking ecological solidarity in Ciotat and the Calanque National Park. But again, Zoe is going to tell you more about why this challenge title and what it is. And give you more info about that. Just to tell you more about the global Starts4Water consortium, we have 10 organizations based in located in different countries in Europe, and some of us have 1 residency and others have up to 3 residencies. So in total, there are 20 residencies proposed as part of this Starts4Water II. And of course, you will find all the different subjects for each of them online on the Starts4Water II website.
Yes, so maybe just before addressing the challenge and the residency overview into more details, I just want to go back to something that Julie said about Camargo and the relationship between Camargo and its surrounding environments and local stakeholders. The Camargo Foundation has been developing and working on programs in collaboration with local stakeholders such as the Calanque National Park, but also research laboratories in geosciences, in environmental sciences, oceanology for a couple of years now. And so for us at Camargo, to be able to host this Starts4Water residency is actually a step further towards nurturing research, strengthening a community, a transdisciplinary community of artists, scholars, and thinkers using very different methods and informing their practices with knowledge produced on this territory by the stakeholders, but also by their fellow artists at Camargo. So I think it's important to know that when you will arrive at Camargo as a resident, there's already a network existing, and there's work, archives, and there's knowledge being produced and exchanged about these issues since a couple of years already.
And actually in fall of this year, from September to mid-November, we'll have 3 residents that are in partnership with a place in Lithuania called Nida Art Colony, which is also located in the national park, and also a national park that is between land and sea. So there will be other people, and in spring next year, as part of another program, the Camargo Fellowship, we have someone, a curator, has been long working on question of relation between art and ecology, will be here.
Anaïs Roche, yes.
Anaïs Roche. So, and there will be other people coming with similar questions, similar subjects, also looking at history. So the ecosystem that is within Camargo, within the on campus, will be super interesting. But we have also this larger ecosystem of people, being the national park, being the university, being, I mean, even the fishermen or all the users and all the experts that you can, the finalist will be totally connected with.
So maybe to jump into the challenge details, the Camargo residency is really looking at ecological solidarity as a principle, a question to be addressed from an artistic viewpoint and with transdisciplinary methodologies and practices. The reality of ecological solidarity and the territory and the challenge that we have in this residency is really set in a present that interweaves distant past and futures. The residency addresses issues that are related to environmental mutations from a perspective of deep time. This residency will ask specifically how ecological solidarity could be achieved between a historic industrial port region and a protected coastal area. So this industrial port region is obviously La Ciotat's port clusters, which is actually an antique port. The port of La Ciotat, the oldest port of La Ciotat, was created when the city of Marseille was created. And there's a history of development and growth of the port activities that are really, really interesting and that still exist today. Today, there are 4 ports operating in La Ciotat with very different activities. And the protected marine areas of the Calanque National Park are actually neighboring the ports and the port activity of La Ciotat. So this is a very interesting space to look at, and many issues and many transformations are occurring in this space. And of course, it's fluid, it's not static. So many people are involved in cohabiting, and people, humans, but also non-humans factors are involved. So that's a very interesting and fertile space to question.
And also our activity of La Ciotat has been changing drastically. I mean, it used to be a place to build boats, like huge boats, beginning of the 20th century. Then it went in a big crisis and of the 20th century, beginning of the 21st century. And by now it's shifting totally, for example, to refitting of super luxurious boat yachts. It's moved, the city moved from a more, of course, like a more, because of the construction of the boat, from a more worker city to a town to by now very different group of inhabitants. So there are a lot of questions also, there are social and historical questions, and all this is entangled with also the environment.
There are very interesting dynamics happening over the decades and the centuries in these ports. Actually, the first shipping construction workshop was created in 1662, so it really goes back to a different century. There's lots of historical material to dig into as well, to really understand the complex history of this site and you know, how it works and how it operates within a broader ecosystem. And so this residency will specifically look at the interactions that are taking place at the interface of this port cluster in La Ciotat and a preserved marine ecosystems that are part of the Calanque National Park. So against this background and through the residency support outline, we expect the artist in residency to develop a project that really goes beyond a mere concept or techno-utopia. Someone who will want to experiment with eco-critical practices through direct marine engagement, which will, you know, be facilitated by Camargo and its network and the local stakeholders and the partnerships that already exist, but also to incorporate diverse stakeholders. So the people that we know, but we, you know, our partners in the region can also put the artist in touch with other people. So it's also a way to expand this network and to meet different people. That's it. So there are a couple of keywords that we added to the open call. I put the link of the open call in the chat. So if you want to double check, if you want to have more details or information, you can just click on it and look online. To speak in more details about the partners that we have and the support system. So if you have already looked it up on internet and on the Starts4Water website, you will see that one of the specificities of this program is that each residency, each host institution, like Camargo, that will welcome a residence, has to constitute what is called a LEG, so a legal expert group. So basically, these people will support the research and the experimentations of the artists in residency. So they're different in each residency. The people we have solicited and who will be part of the leg for now, there will be more people according to the artist profiles and need afterwards. But right now, there will be an oceanographer from the Mediterranean Institute of Oceanology. There will be staff members from the Calanque National Park, marine archaeologists, but also rangers from the park who are looking at and taking care of the east coast, the east part of the national park.
So the La Ciotat, Cassis part of the national park, and the oceanographer is not only an oceanographer, but she's also teaching in La Ciotat in a specific training center, specific program in La Ciotat. So very connected also to the local questions.
Very connected to the local communities. She's teaching at the university level. So there are already bridges existing, and it's really up to the artist in residency to, you know, to experience that and to offer and to exchange with all of these people. And there will also be a marine anthropologist from the National Museum of Natural History in Paris. So this is the leg right now, which once again will evolve. There will be more people to be invited to join the leg, to serve the artist's interest and research. And as I was saying before, there's also more collaborators and interlocutors in the region. So Ciotat's local environmental ONG and city council will be supporting and as interlocutors the artistic residency. Ciotat's port representatives. There will be the Observatory of the Environment in Ciotat, and the PITAS Institute, which actually the Mediterranean Institute of Oceanology is a research laboratory from the PITAS Institute, but there are other laboratories that constitute this institute, such as geosciences research, environmental mutations, that covers major scientific themes of the Earth, environment, and the universe science.
Of course, we have a lot of many other contacts depending on the person that is selected and the interest of the artist we could look into. I mean, being in the art sector or in other civil society or other academia, but this is very much more specific.
Regarding the residency conditions and expectations, some of them are already listed in the open call, so you can refer to it afterwards if you still have questions. So this is specific to the Camargo Foundation. The residency will run for 9 months. We ask the artists in residency to be present for at least 4 months on site. For us, it's very important that, there's still time that is being spent at Camargo for this residency for many different reasons, to be really to benefit from, the environment, the local partners and stakeholders, to be present, to be available, and also to benefit from the exchanges that can happen among residents from the Camargo community as well. We welcome kids that are over 6 years old in residency for parent artists, and the partners are also, of course, welcome during the stay of the artist in residency at Camargo. We provide accommodation. So as Julie was saying earlier, the Camargo Foundation has 12 fully furnished and equipped apartments, so with kitchens, bathrooms, bedrooms, living rooms. So the artist in residency will have one of these apartments when they are staying at Camargo. And of course, access to the working spaces that we mentioned earlier at the beginning of the webinar, the technical cabin, the artist studio. According to the artist's needs and requirements, we can book these spaces at different times throughout the year and the residency.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, regarding the expectations, so we expect the artist in residency to engage with regional actors and stakeholders, to go beyond the conceptual approach, we mentioned it earlier, to experiment with practices that are informed through direct, sensitive and continuous contact with local ecosystems and communities. That's very important for this specific residency at Camargo. And there will be also a requirement for the artist to be physically present at meetings. There is a calendar in the challenge form, the Camargo challenge form online, so you can refer to it. There will be a few public presentations organized at different stages of the residency to engage with the local audience, but also to share the different stages of the research progress with the public.
With the public, but also for us, it's important to have this person to be engaged and to also with like schools. Of course, it doesn't mean that we want the person to spend like huge amount of time with the school, but we will manage to have other activities with the class, for example, and that at some point, as the artist selected, can go for 1 session or 2 with a class to discuss and exchange on the research going on. So that's all indeed something that is key for us. And before maybe we go to the selection process, also what is offered to the artists that will be selected is we offer as part of this program, and you can get all the details about that on the website and the guidelines. But there is a grant of 40,000 euro for the artists that's selected.
That covers, artistic fees, but also the organization and participation at artistic exhibition and events, and any relevant costs to ensure that the implementation of the project is successful.
So deadline, there is an entire application process to be done online. The deadline to apply is on June 26th. And you will have all the information about how to apply and everything online. And then the selection process.
So the selection process will start right after the open call deadline. So from July 1st to 21st, we will ask the 3 finalists who will be pre-selected by a selection committee to make themselves available the week of July 15th. We need to still decide on the date. So we're waiting for a confirmation from the selection committee, but it will be announced very soon.
And just for information, the selection committee, I mean, we will be composed of people from the art sector, people from La Ciotat, people from also the more scientists. So just think when you apply, think that the people that will read your application will be from different disciplines and different background. It's not only people from the art sector.
I think.
And we don't expect a finished project, of course. I mean, this is a research residency, so we expect you to present an intention,
a process,
yeah,
research methodologies,
and we don't expect at the end. We expect to have something that can be shown, but not a finished production at the end, of course.
So you don't have to, you don't have to explain what the final production of a prototype will look like if you don't feel like that's the main interest of your proposal. If it is, you're welcome to do so. But what's interesting is also to to be able at the end of this residency in summer 2025 to share the different stages of research of your projects and all of the encounters that have nurtured your reflection. And so it's really, adding reflection and more transdisciplinarity to a challenge that is already existing. So it's not, it's not new. The question of ecological solidarity has been existing and challenging for many, many years here in this region. So you're really going to just jump into an existing conversation and connect with many different people with very different skills and knowledge. And the point is to better understand and experiment how combination of knowledge and know-how can bring us to a better understanding of this very complex history and environment.
And bring new perspective to all that, I mean.
Now we can jump to questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can look at the chat and see if you have sent questions already. Okay, so, wow. Yes. Okay. So right now, there is no question in the chat.
So if you have questions, don't hesitate.
There's one question.
Yep.
So there's one question. Can 2 people apply together? So it's already detailed in the open call, and that is a rule that applies to every residency, not just the Camargo residency. You can apply as a collaborative team with 2 persons, but Unfortunately, the grant cannot be doubled. We cannot offer an 80,000 euros grant for 2 artists in residency. So that's something that's really important to keep in mind. The point of this residency is not to bring more precarity into artistic creation and practice, but to support in the best way an artistic research process. So you're eligible as a collaborative team, but I think it's important to keep that in mind. Also, when you design the budget to be sent with your application, just think about the costs if you're applying at more than just one person.
So maybe this question was asked in the Q&A part and not in the chat, so so just use this one if you want to ask more questions.
If you have more, if when writing your application, you have more questions about the local context, look into the challenge form of Camargo that is published on the Starts4Water website. We have put some links that will give you access to our partners organizations website. So more information about the toxic legacy and history of the region, but also the industrial capitalist history of the region, the history of the national park of the Calanque. I think it can be interesting to look into that and to get insights when writing your application.
So someone else is asking the 4 months on site, do they need to be in one go, or can they be like, for example, 2 days a week or something like that? They don't need to be in one go. However, we usually don't do shorter than 2 weeks residencies. And when people are coming in residency, we expect them to be at least here, not to be here only 2 days a week. So yeah, if you have 4 months in total, it should be at least by slots of 2-3 weeks or longer. I mean, we will, for us, it's good that they are quite long period of time on site. We know that by experience, because it's apartments that are furnished, but with bathroom and kitchen and everything, but it's really apartment where people need to move in buying everything for the kitchens and everything. And usually people take 1 week to settle in. And then, of course, the last week, they are already in, the mind is moving out. So usually it's good to be here at least 3-4 weeks in one go.
And maybe something to precise that is obvious for us, but not for you, is that the apartment will be allocated to the resident according to their availability. So if you're coming for 2 weeks, the apartment will be your apartment for 2 weeks, but it's not going to be your apartment for the whole year. So you will have to move in and move out every time. So that's also something to keep in mind. And once again, the 4 months is a minimum requirement. So you can ask to stay for a longer period in residency at Camargo if you want to be here for 7 full months.
Or 9 full months. That's possible.
That's also possible.
And another question that is also related to that is, are there any efforts to align with this period between participants for the sake of collaborating, sharing commonalities? It's of course good. It's not something we'll ask for, but it's of course good. For example, on September, we have 2 big sessions, which is related to the Camargo Fellowship, which is another program. 1 session, and those are 10 weeks residencies, and we have 7 individuals or collective coming for those 10 weeks. And 1 is from early September to mid-November, and the spring session is from mid-February to early May. So, and when those are starting, there is an entire process we organize, with dinners, with visits, with tour to Marseille, with talks, introduction, and it builds a group dynamic and affinities between people. Of course, there are always people that are coming through the year with different timing. So, and then they can become part of the group also.
There's definitely an effort that it's something that's still existing at Camargo to also create bridges and bonds between programs, not only within programs. So, once you are selected as an artist for this residency, we will, have a call and discuss your availabilities and see when would be the best time for you to be at Camargo according to your research and interests and the activities of programs at Camargo.
A question about bringing a dog along for longer stays. Dogs except if they are service dogs. If not, we don't allow animals dogs and I would say cats on site. Sorry. And
there's another question. The final interview mid-July can be done online, of course.
Yeah. Of course, we don't expect people to fly in or travel from very far. I mean, depending on where people are. Of course, if and some of the, I think some of the jury members or people will also be in different places. Probably not all in France, but in different places.
So, if you're very close to the foundation, visits can be arranged as well, and an interview can be held on site. But as Julie said, the members of the selection committee will have to meet online anyway. So this will be an online meeting. Yes. There's another question.
Will there be exchanges with other residents of Starts4Water? Yeah, there are different time through the program where all the residents, all the artists will get together or get to meet. And also in February, we will host a meeting of the consortium. So the 10 organization will be coming at Camargo to meet. So that's also a very good period for the artists to meet with all the
consortium members and to exchange and maybe introduce the project in more details. I think there's the host institution local program with the resident, which will be the Camargo program with the resident on site. So, presentations, introduction, exchanges and activities that we are planning here on site for the resident, but there's also this international program that the residents will join. The same way all of the residents from the different institutions that are part of the program, they will join as well.
And just one, because we are switching in the question between English and French. I think it's not compulsory at all to speak French. It will be important to be able to exchange in English for different reasons. On site at Camargo, people will exchange mainly in English. When we are all together, the common language is English. About French, of course, it's easier if the artist selected speaks some French, because of course, being in France and working with all it's a residency where the artist will have to and will be exchanging with different people and from very different backgrounds. So that's easier to do it in French, of course, knowing that quite a few will speak English, but some will not.
And, Camargo is an international residency. There are about, a bit less than 10 residency programs running throughout the year, and they're all developed with different partners from France, but also European partners and international partners. So the people in residency at Camargo speak many different languages.
Yes. And work in very different languages.
And they work in very different languages as well, but they all manage somehow to communicate in English.
Any other questions? Also, if you have any question, of course, first look on the website, but Zoe is always there to answer questions.
You can look again on the website, the Starts official information. That's also the information that we will be sharing. This webinar will be, is being recorded, so the recording will be put online on Camargo's YouTube channel. So,
and there are also the webinars that were done at the beginning in May as part with the entire consortium. There were 2 webinars. One webinar was more about the residency, and the entire concept. And another webinar that was really done about the application process and the different steps of the application process. So don't hesitate to also watch those webinars that are on Starts4Water II website. And sorry if we are sometimes looking to the right, is that we are watching the sea.
There's a window and a sea view just right here, so it's a bit
extending.
Ouais. And if there's an information that you cannot get on the website or in the webinars or anything, you can always email the Camargo Foundation. You can email me. You can email the info@Camargo. The email address is on the website of the Camargo Foundation. So there's still time before the deadline of the open call. So don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have pressing questions or issues you want to address.
I would also invite you, if you want to apply, not to wait last minute. It's a European program. I mean, and the application process, I would say it's a little tedious, and needs to follow, like, upload some documents and download some questionnaire to fill in and upload them. So it's not, I would say, it's not a I would say our Camargo Fellowship application is quite straightforward, and I would say quite easy to fill in. And I would say this one is good to take a little more time to do it, to get to fully understand it and answer it. And don't wait for the last day to do it. And so also, if you have any question or things you don't understand, you can either ask us, or of course the team at the consortium are also there to help and assist. And we often exchange with them, and they send us questions from applicants. So really, they are very hands-on and they're very much there to assist all applicants. So please do so.
Whichever person you're contacting, the information are circulating among the consortium members and the Camargo staff. So you will always get an answer and end up in some way speaking to the right person. So don't wait, don't hesitate, just send your email.
And again, it's also a call that is open to, there is no limit to where the artist should be based, or the person does not need to be based in Europe, can be based in any country, any nationality, any discipline. So that's fully open. There is no preference. It's not because it's a EU program that it should be a EU based or EU citizen.
One last question. Yeah. Someone's asking if there's a car at Camargo that the resident will be able to use.
I think this is more a question that we should build into the budget, the capacity for, if someone has no car, to be able to rent a car.
Well, there's a parking at Camargo, so if you rent a car, you can park it during the residency in the parking at Camargo.
The Cassis to la Ciotat is not far. There are buses and there are trains, but because we are both harbor cities, the train station are not located in the city, in the town center. They're located inland, so it makes it a little more tricky. It's a distance that if someone is into e-bike or into gravel bike can do easily, but it's one has to.
It's very hilly.
It's keeping to account that it's hilly. It's a beautiful road, but quite hilly. So good gravel bikers. Any other questions? I think we are.
Oh, one more.
One more.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Another question. Thank you. Thank you for joining the webinar. So I think, the webinar is coming to its end. If no one has a question, as I was saying, the recording will be put online. So just check Camargo's YouTube channel and you can watch it again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And hope to see you soon.
We're looking forward to reading your applications.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Bye.